Hi, I'm Bryan Phillips with Swell Guy Customs, and today I'm going to show you how to customize your very own skateboard. So today I'm going to show you how to take this blank skateboard deck and using leather dye or leather paint, customize it and make it your very own. But before we start, we have to turn this wood into its natural form by sanding it down a bit. So the skateboard deck has a light sealant or a coating on it, and so we're going to sand it down, bring it back to its natural state so that it's very porous and takes the dye and the paint well. So first we're going to start with a low grit 300 sandpaper, work our way up to 800 and 1,500 and maybe even higher. Get a nice, smooth, clean surface. You want to sand along the grain and just go back and forth and get even coverage all over. If you have a sanding machine, you can use that. We're just going to sand by hand today though. Now that we got our board all sanded down, nice and smooth, before we start painting, I want to stain it with Angelus Leather Dye. The leather dye method is something we learned through Big D's YouTube channel. He's a guy that makes his own custom guitar bodies, and one of the things he does is he uses Angelus Leather Dye to create these cool gradient burst effects. And you could check out his channel to get a more in-depth look at how to do it, but we're going to kind of do a beginner's version into that. I want to give this board sort of an underwater feel, so first I'm going to be starting with a turquoise leather dye, and I'm just going to take a rag and pour some of that dye on here, and then I'm just going to kind of work a circular motion onto the wood. I'm just going over a few different times, working the dye in. You want to be patient, take your time with this, and just give it a few different coats. And then on the edge of the board, I'll be using a navy blue that I will then use the turquoise to work back and forth and create a gradient. For that, I'm going to take a different rag. And I'm just going to very lightly just work it on the edges. What's nice about the leather dye is that there's a lot of give to it, so it doesn't dry right away, and you can just kind of, if you have too much of one color, you can kind of push it back by using the other color. And in the center, we're just going to use a yellow, create a nice circle, and work that with the turquoise to create a yellow, green to turquoise fade to kind of create what looks like a light source from the back. So once we're done with the leather dye gradient, I'm going to paint my own original art on top of that. For this idea, I wanted to create sort of an underwater atmosphere, and so I thought naturally of like a deep sea diver. So for this deep sea diver, I'm going to be using various tones of orange and brown. I want to keep everything kind of in the same tonal range. The blue and the orange are going to look really good together, so I'm just going to work my way to various darks and lights. I'm keeping it tonally orange and brown colors, so I'm just going from like a buttercup to playing the sand, cognac, and dark brown, and just working those colors together to create color variations that I'm looking for. On top of that, then I'll go in with a dark brown liner and just create all the details and the line work. I wanted to keep it kind of like an old school illustration style, so I used a lot of etching and hash mark shading as well. And then on top of that, we'll do the octopus tentacles using tangerine with playing the sand and just blend those together to create a subtle fade. Then it just goes down to, again, more line work and creating all the details for the octopus temples. We've got our board all painted, it's almost ready to go. Last thing we gotta do is add some finisher. We're gonna add a couple coats to give it some protection. Just like any other skateboard, when you ride it or grind it against the ground, it will tear some of the paint off, but adding some finisher might give it some extra protection and just an even finish. And there you have it, your very own custom skateboard. We sanded it down, added a cool gradient background using Angelus Leather Dye, and then painted our own original art on top of that. You can hang it up on your wall to create some cool wall art, or put the trucks back on and take it for a spin down the street. I'm Bryan Phillips with Swell Guy Customs. Thank you so much for watching. You can catch me on Instagram and Facebook at Swell Guy Customs. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.